Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 3, episode Lucky 13 of the Generation Latino podcast. Guys, I'm Paul, and I am your host. First of all, thank you for tuning in. As I always say, it truly means the world to me. I sometimes feel like I sound like a broken record, but I am very thankful and I'm very excited. And since I've had social media, like I said, I recently got it in January. I have a TikTok for the podcast. So if you haven't, please follow me on TikTok at Generation Latino Podcast. Because of that, the podcast has really grown even more internationally. So thank you for anyone who is supporting and listening and sharing. It really means a lot to me. But how was y'all's weekend? Where I'm at in Texas, it's cold. It's like 40 something degrees and it is like sweater weather, and I'm like, what happened to the spring weather? I don't know. It's all over the place with the weather. You don't know if you should wear a sweater, a crop top, or some booty shorts. Like, you just never know in this Texas weather. But anyways, I hope y'all are doing well. And are y'all ready for summer? Do y'all have any summer plans? I don't really have anything planned at all, but I'm excited to start school in the fall. Like I said, I'll be going to law school. And also, I met with my advisor last week and it went really, really well. So I'm really excited. We kind of tightened up my schedule and what it would look like. So I am excited to get back into that student mindset. I don't know how it's gonna work, but I'm just excited about it. But yeah, I hope y'all are doing well. And once again, if you haven't, follow me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. I am wherever you can listen to a podcast. Trust me, I am on that platform. So thank you so very much. I was having a conversation with my mom the other day, and for some reason, we started talking about all the men I have been with. Not like that, like like intimately. Well, just like the men in my life. We started when I was very young, and she was like, "Who was that guy that used to come over?" I was like, "Oh, that's so and so. He was my first kiss." And then we went all the way up until my most recent serious relationship, which was my ex-husband, right? I'm very candid and open about my divorce and what that did and how it affected me and how I'm still learning from it. But that got me to think about a lot of emotions that I hadn't felt. We were talking about like my first heartbreak and guys that I met in college and dated. And I was like, man, like heartbreak is a bitch. It really is. And all the episodes that I do when I talk about heartbreak or love or anything like that, those episodes seem to do really well. And by no means am I this dating expert, but I have been around the block and I've had all types of relationships. And I think that people can relate to heartbreak and healing and what they learn when they are in a relationship. So today, we are really going to talk about heartbreak. And the question that I have is, have you ever known someone was wrong for you, but still couldn't stop missing them? Have you ever replayed the same memories over and over, checked their social media accounts, or wondered why it feels so impossible to let go? And like I said, heartbreak is one of the hardest things we go through because you're not just grieving a person, you're grieving the future you imagined with them. And that's, for me at least, what was the hardest. And heartbreak can make you question everything. It can make you question your self worth, your future, and even who you are without that person. And in this episode, we talk about why it's so hard to let go, why your mind keeps replaying the memories, and why healing is never as simple as just move on, right? How many times have you heard your girlfriends or your friends just be like, just move on? And the truth is, though, it's not that easy. So we'll talk about attachment and loneliness to missing the version of yourself you were in that relationship. This episode is a real and honest conversation about heartbreak, healing, and learning how to choose yourself again. Today, we're talking about why heartbreak hurts so deeply, why moving on is never as easy as people make it seem. So, I really hope you enjoy this episode. Like, y'all all know by now, I love talking about love and heartbreak and relationships. And I think it's such a fascinating topic because it's one thing that no one has really been able to master. I truly believe that as we evolve as humans and in technology, like it's always just going to evolve. So there's never going to be this right answer. What worked in the 1980s and the 1990s and the 2000s don't work today. What worked 10 years ago doesn't work today. So it's just always fun to explore. I might even want to become like a dating coach. I don't know, says the single guy. But I'm always fascinated by relationships and by human behavior. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. Heartbreak, healing, and learning to choose yourself. All right, guys. So I am going to separate this episode into segments. And I'm really excited about it because we get to really talk about something that's really fun to me. And I think a lot of people relate to this. And this is relationships, right? I am someone who loves love. I love meeting people. And in my opinion, there is nothing better than when you first meet someone in a romantic way and you're really getting to know them and you're really trying to figure out if they're the one for you. You get those butterflies. Y'all all know what I'm talking about. And as a guy in my 30s, I talk to a lot of other people. I talk to people at the gym, in passing, at work, and just kind of just in general. And it seems like the number one issue that people have, it's not career, it's not school, it's not health and wellness. I think the number one issue that a lot of people have is dating. I do. And it's the more and more I talk to people, it's like they've mastered everything else, but they can't master their love life, their romance, their intimacy. It's so interesting to me, which is why, as you know, we have a million dating apps, right? Because there's such a huge market for it. You know, currently I'm not on any apps, but I also ask myself, like, where am I gonna meet someone? Where do you meet people in this ever so rapid, fast life? Where do you meet people? I'm like at the grocery store. I made a video the other day. I was at the grocery store and I was like, maybe I'll meet someone here. I don't know, but it's interesting to me that it is one thing that people have the hardest time mastering. We've met politicians and celebrities and CEOs and groundbreaking individuals, and the one thing they can't master is love. They can't master a partnership because I think it's a lot of work. But a lot of the time, when it comes to heartbreak, you're not just missing the person, you're missing the version of you who you used to be, right? And you're also grieving. And I think for me and a lot of other people out there, the number one thing that you are missing is the future that you pictured with that person. And you create this life with someone, and then all of a sudden it stops. You're missing of what could have been. The routines and comfort is also something that you have to adapt to if you are no longer going to be with that person anymore. I know for me, when I'm in a relationship, I'm a little bit more giddy and I'm a little bit more like whimsical and magical and enchanted. And then, you know, if I'm no longer in that, there's no need for me to be like in my lover girl, lover boy era. I kind of become a little bit I don't want to say jaded, but just more rough around the edges. But I think that's a big factor in heartbreak. And sometimes you miss the good moments and forget the reasons it ended. I find myself being in that position sometimes when I think about relationships that didn't work out for the better. I'm always like fixating on, well, we did this together. We went to this park and we hiked here. And I'm like, Paul, yes, but that's a portion of it. Why did it end? Oh, because he was jealous or he was controlling, he was insecure, he was not the best fit. Like sometimes we have to remind ourselves. And I think a big one that a lot of people do is we romanticize people when they're gone. I find myself doing this. There's some shitty people out there, right? There just are. There's good, there's evil, there's bad, there's up, there's down. Like there's always going to be a an opposite of whatever that emotion or feeling is. And I see this a lot with my girlfriends. They romanticize a situation they're in, and I'm like, honey, no. You are creating and romanticizing this guy who is not the best for you. And I see a lot of women, and again, I'm going to say women, and there's like 67% of my listeners are women. The last time I looked at my analytics, I see women like grasping for straws, looking like with a magnifying glass what this guy can offer them. And I'm like, no. And I know I'm always talking about women, but that's again, that's my listener base, and that's who I surround myself with a lot of the times as women. And I see them like looking for ways to defend their man. I'm like, no, you're romanticizing him. He's a shitty guy. He is a horrible person. Stop sticking up for him. But when we're in these heartbreak moments, we're almost thinking about what could have been, right? Like, no, he was a bad person. He was a shitty guy. Let him go. And also ask yourself, do I miss this person, or do I miss the feeling of being loved, wanted, or chosen? That's why a lot of people stay in relationships because they like the feeling. It might not even be love, it could just be feeling wanted or chosen. You should not be in something because you don't want to feel alone. Segment two, why your brain won't let it go. Heartbreak is emotional, right? But it's also chemical. When you're in love, your brain becomes attached to the attention, the text, the routines, and emotional highs. When the relationship ends, your brain feels withdrawn. A big factor of why it's so hard to let go is because you were so used to talking to them every day. Your brain expects them to still be there. The breakup creates an emotional emptiness. That's why you want them to text, stalk your page, or replay every conversation. We do this to ourselves. I know for me too, after I've ended something or a situation has ended for me, whether it was a boyfriend, an ex-husband, or anything, I kind of start to replay conversations and moments, but at the same time, I'm getting caught up in something that wasn't healthy or wasn't good. You know, missing someone does not always mean that they belong in your life. Sometimes it just means your heart is adjusting to a new reality. And that's the hard part, right? I have a lot of girlfriends who are experiencing heartbreak. And I think the reason why is because they have to adjust to the new reality. And I remember with my very first ever breakup or big heartbreak, I was 22. And I remember I literally thought that life would never get back to normal. I really thought that. It was the first big breakup, heartache. I really thought my life was over. I really believe that. Why? I was young, I was impressionable. But I remember calling my mom and I was like, hey, I need you to pray for me because I feel empty. I don't feel like being here anymore. Not that I was going to do something, but I almost felt like there was no purpose to life. And I remember thinking to myself, I never want to be this vulnerable to someone. I never want to be at somebody's mercy. like this. And as we talk about heartbreak and breakup and what how it develops and all of that and how we move on from it. And again, I've done episodes on to love or to not love a love song and breakups. I mean, I'm very fascinated by the topic, and I think a lot of people are too. The hard truth is that closure doesn't always come. And this is what segment 3 will be about. This is the hard part because in an ideal, perfect world, say you and someone don't work out, you have a conversation, y'all have dinner, y'all meet up, and y'all talk about like what was wrong, what didn't happen, y'all get the final goodbye. You know, that scene in The Bodyguard where Whitney's on the plane and then she runs down and runs to Kevin Costner and I will always love you is playing. Like that is not every day. That is a superstar and their bodyguard. And you know, they kind of have that closure with each other and whatnot. And that's not the case with the majority of breakups. And that's why people handle them so hard. There is not always going to be closure. And that's the hard part. A lot of times they end abruptly, they end with emotional highs. So you're cussing at each other and you're yelling at each other. And one of the hardest parts of heartbreak is waiting for closure from someone who may never give it. I have a girlfriend at the moment who their partner just abruptly just stopped talking to them. I mean, cold turkey. And how do you deal with that? You go from 2 years being with someone, holidays, birthdays, you know, creating this life, sleepovers, and waking up next to someone to literally the next day, you are done with them. How the hell do you move on with that? You know, it's hard. It's hard. I keep telling my friend, you're going to have to come to the conclusion that you may not have the answers that you want. And they keep telling me, well, I want closure. I want answers. That may never happen. And you have to surrender that. And the thing is, though, some people move on very quickly. Very quickly. And I hate to say this, but they do. I've known people who were literally living with someone, having a life with someone, and then a day later they moved in with someone else and everything is just a-okay. A-okay. Like nothing. Posting photos, I love you and this and that. I mean, it sucks. My divorce was finalized in September. By November, my ex-husband was dating, had photos of him and his boyfriend on social media. They were in love, and I was like, "The fuck? How? I respect you more having sex with random guys than actually being in a full-blown relationship." I'm sorry, a full-blown boyfriend and boyfriend? Like, come on. But no, they were together and holding hands and cooking for each other, and I thought, "Wow." You know, and also too, guys, some people never apologize. And I know I hear a lot of my friends be like, well, I just want an apology. I just want them to apologize. Well, honey, you are going to keep waiting on forever because you are never going to get the apology that you want. You might never get it. I'm sorry. And waiting for them to give you peace keeps you stuck. And that's the number one thing. I know when I was younger, I used to wait and fantasize about what closure would look like for certain people in my life, specifically like relationship wise. I used to be like, okay, it's going to be like this and it's going to be like this. And I was living in complete delusion. That never happened. That was fantasy world. That was Disney. That was like the perfect happily ever after. It never happened, you know? Closure is not always a conversation. Sometimes closure is accepting that you deserve better. The truth is, some people will leave confusion behind and still expect you to clean up the mess. No, don't do that. Again, as we talk about heartbreak, there's no wrong or right way to get through it. No amount, I'm sorry, no disrespect to therapists and counselors. No, there's no right answer to get through fucking heartbreak. I've done it. I've been in therapy. I've been in classes. I've listened to the songs. I've listened to the watched the movies, read the books. Nothing can truly help you but you just moving forward with your life. That is the best answer I can give people. Yes, it's nice to have a therapist and have the counselor and be able to go to the gym or be able to read the book and, be selfish. But the reality is that you just got to wake up every morning and keep doing what you do. That is the best way to get through a fucking breakup. You keep doing you. You keep your routine going. I know it's hard, but that's the only way. It's the only way. What I always also see with breakups is people going back and forth with each other, right? So segment 4 is why we keep going back. Why do people keep going back? I see so many people going back and forth and back and forth, and I'm always saying like, you have to let go. But the truth is though that people fear starting over, they fear being alone, and they believe they won't find better. And they're confusing history with love. Oh, we have all of this together, all of this time. I don't want it to go to waste. Ma'am, that time is junk. That should be in the trash bin. But I fear so many people be like, well, I've invested so much time in this relationship. That's bad. So because you were doing drugs for 20 years of your life because you invested that much time in it, you got to keep doing it. No, it's not good for you. It's not healthy for you. But I always see people confusing history with love all the time. We're high school sweethearts. Great. Y'all moved on. Y'all are not the same people. Y'all need to move on. Just because someone was a big part of your life doesn't mean they are meant to stay in it. That doesn't mean that they need to be in your life. So, my question to you is, are you holding on because they were good for you or because you're afraid to let go? If you're in a relationship, really think about it. Are you holding on because they were good for you or because you're afraid to let go? I've been there before. I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to know what life was going to be like without someone. But I knew that I had to choose me first. So when I moved forward with my separation and my divorce, were there things that I could have done differently? Absolutely. Absolutely. I was in my 20s. I'm in my 30s now. If I would have done things differently, but you don't know what you don't know. And for anyone out there who's going through a heartbreak or a breakup, this next segment is going to be very helpful. How to actually begin healing. This is hard because, like I said, there's no concrete answer on how to actually heal from a heartbreak. And because every heartbreak is differently. But I think there's practical healing tips that can and that have helped me. And I think the reason why I'm so fascinated by heartbreak and love and romance is because it's something that I truly genuinely want and something that I feel like I have yet to master. I've done a lot of things. I've mastered a lot of things in my life, but this is one that I'm like, Jesus, like I'm still trying to figure out. But here are some helpful things that can actually help you begin healing because I think healing is the most important part when it comes to really getting over, moving on, beginning your life again. My friend that I was talking about, they keep telling me like I want to feel normal again. I just want to feel normal. And I've been there. I remember going through my breakups or my divorce and being like, I just want to be my old version again. I want to be the Paul that I remember being. But when you spend time with someone and you create this life with them, you evolve into what needs to be to create that relationship or what needs to be make that relationship good or in some cases bad. But number one, stop checking their social media. Stop. Stop. I've had friends tell me like, "Hey, can you check so and so social media?" I'm like, "Girl, no, no." And the only reason that I knew that my ex-husband was in a relationship was because one of my friends sent me a photo. I was like, "I don't want to see this shit. I don't want to see his fucking Walmart version boyfriend of me. No. No. I don't want to see that." Another one, let yourself cry and be angry. You're allowed to feel angry. That's why I did that episode on To Love or To Not Love a breakup song, because I had some really good bangers on there when it came to songs, because I believe in a "You Oughta Know" Alanis Morissette moment. Are you thinking of me when you fuck her? That sometimes you need to allow that rage to go through your body. You have to go for a run, let it out. And also talk to people you trust. I have so many good girlfriends that I talk to about my breakups, my what I'm even now currently dating people. If I am, right now I'm not, but if I am, like I'm like, oh my God, this worked out, this didn't work out. Talk to people. Don't be so bitter that you don't allow anyone into your life. I see that all the time. And then journal what you really miss. Write it out. Write a poem, write a song, write a book or something, whatever it is. Journal it, write it down. A big one, and for me, this has really helped me, is focus on rebuilding your own life. Remember, when you go through a breakup or a divorce, in my case, you go from partnership duo, Pinky and the Brain, you go from SpongeBob and Patrick to complete solo act. That is not easy to do. I'm telling you, I've done a lot of hard shit in my life, but going from a partnership, husbands, bills split together, a rent due together, sharing every single thing, to completely not, that is an adjustment. But you have to focus on rebuilding your own life. I had to do it. I had no choice. I couldn't rely on, you know, drugs or alcohol. I couldn't rely on doing other things that were not healthy for me. I had to slowly, brick by brick, rebuild my life. You have to. And also remember who you were before them. Remember, I know for me, I was like, I got to get back to being me. And not that I lost myself, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to grad school. You know what? I want to get my master's. You know what? I want to go to law. You start to like, I started CrossFit. I started doing other things that I hadn't done before, or that I had wanted to do, and that's why for me, it was a big factor to really put myself first. And I did. And also, the last one, stop confusing loneliness with love. Stop. Don't do that. Don't think, oh, I miss them, I miss him, I miss her. Girl, that was not love. It wasn't. Maybe at a time it was, but it's not love anymore. It's not. And healing is not waking up one day and suddenly being over it. It's not gonna happen. Because I remember being like, when am I gonna get over this fucking breakup? When am I gonna get over this guy? When am I gonna get over it? But healing is choosing yourself over and over again, even on the days you still miss them. There were some times when I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do this or that, but you have to. And I know it sounds easier, but you have to. You can miss someone and still know that they're not good for you. Remember that. Remember that. But I have some questions for you and we will answer them together. What part of heartbreak has been the hardest for you? Really think about that. For me, the hardest part of heartbreak is the what could have been. That has always been for me. Whenever something ends, a relationship, or if I was dating someone, I always, for me, the hardest part is like the what could haves, the what should haves, like all of that. That's hard for me. But what about for you? What is it for you? Uh, Another question is, have you ever missed someone who wasn't good for you? I think that's a lot of us. I think that's a lot of us. Of course, I've missed someone who wasn't good for me. Why? Because I'm stupid now. um, because we shared a life together, and I know I'm pretty sure you listening out there have missed someone who wasn't good for you. And the last question is, what is one thing you need to let go in order to heal? Think about that. One thing that you need in order to heal. This is an interesting question, but for me, the one thing that I need to heal is I need to prioritize my life and my wants and my needs. That is one thing that I need. And I think if you're listening out there and you've experienced a heartbreak or you're going through a heartbreak, and we said it before earlier in the episode, you have to prioritize what you need and what you want. And you can't dwell on the what could have, the what should have. You just can't. But that's what I need. Oh, in music. I will say that music has helped me tremendously throughout any breakups or heartaches or whatnot. And I don't mind sitting in my sad boy, sad girl like feelings. I don't mind listening to a sad song or dwelling on the emotions because I think it's healthy for you to kind of let those emotions go through to you. But I think also too you have to allow yourself a short period of time to do that, and then you move on, and then you get into like the since you've been gones and the you ought to knows and all of those I knew you were trouble, those more empowering breakup songs. But I think it's healthy to sit in your sadness for a very short period of time. You can sit in there, don't live in the sadness, because then you will stay stuck there. Trust me, I know that. But honestly, I think if you are listening to this podcast, if you've gone through breakup or heartache, trust me, you will get through this. I understand it feels heavy. It feels like you never can, but you will. But if you're going through a heartbreak right now, I want you to know this. You are not weak because you still care. You're not dramatic because it still hurts. Heartbreak changes us. It forces us to grieve not just the person, but the version of our life we thought we were going to have. But one day, you will wake up and realize you no longer check your phone hoping it's them, because let's be honest, we've all been there. I've done that several times. One day you will hear that song and it won't break you anymore. One day you will realize that losing them did not mean losing yourself. And also know that you are still worthy. You're still lovable, and the right people will never make you beg for the love you deserve. Remember that. And I'm going to say it again. The right people will never make you beg for the love you deserve. I say this because I think sometimes we often become so vulnerable that we are at the mercy of people, whether it's a loved one, whether it's even professionally at work. I always tell people, don't ever allow yourself to be at someone's mercy, because that's when you lose who you are. I promise you, the minute you allow someone to have that much control over you, it's going to be very hard for you to get your strength back, your willingness, your your confidence back. Remember that. But I want to thank you for tuning in. I know this episode was a little bit heavier and whatnot, but again, guys, if you haven't, follow me on TikTok at Generation Latino Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. And once again, guys, thank you so very much. I hope you have a great week. Go on some dates. Maybe I'll open up an app and and go on a date. Who knows? This episode kind of inspired me to like, okay, cool. Let me go out there again. I don't know. I'm very transparent with my dating life and how it's gone right or wrong. But anyways, guys, thank you so very much, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye, guys. Love you.